There is a manager epidemic in world football. In a modern game marked by meticulous statistics, small margins, and incredibly high business expectations, there seems to be a real issue finding a manager who can handle the bright lights at the top clubs in the world. Xabi Alonso, Real Madrid legend, leaving after just a few months in charge. Ruben Amorim fired after crashing out in front of the whole world on live TV. Enzo Maresca fired on New Year's Day after being trusted with over £500 million of Chelsea's money. And now, current Premier League title holder Arne Slot, well, people are calling for his head. So, what happened to all the great managers in football? It's impossible to discuss a managerial crisis in the modern game and not mention the Red Devils. Since Sir Alex Ferguson's dominant managerial reign came to an end in 2013, United have gone through more underperforming guys than Bonnie Blue, and no manager, regardless of their resume, trophy cabinet, or experience level, has been able to last even 3 years at the helm of this sinking ship. This includes a club legend who single-handedly won them a Champions League trophy, a treble winner who goes by the name The Special One, and even an undercover spy brought in to do as much damage to the squad sheet as possible. This last one hasn't been proven yet, but I'm working on it. Over the past 12 years, Man U have hired managers with all levels of experience, all types of formations, and every football philosophy under the sun. I mean, the only thing all of these coaches have in common is that they've been completely unable to string together a convincing stretch of results for the most successful club in English football. So are all of these managers just unable to handle the lofty expectations at Old Trafford, or is there a larger underlying problem here? Maybe one that could also explain this global shortage of elite, dominant managers at the biggest clubs. To answer this, let's take a look at Man U's most recent ex, Ruben Amorim. After a few shaky seasons under Ten Hag, Man United wanted a fresh start and parted ways after a woeful 8th place finish. Having dealt with a slew of injured players, Eric was probably given a little too much leeway and time at Manchester, but he was just unable to assemble a convincing, title-contending team, and instead started a great migration from his former club Ajax. He was sacked in October of 2024 and replaced by interim manager and former bagsman Ruud van Nistelrooy. And now, United were back at square one part 45, and it was time to look for the next big thing in the managerial scene. Among the shortlist, Thomas Tuchel, former Champions League winner with Chelsea when they had a pretty underwhelming squad. He also won a domestic quadruple with PSG. Thomas Frank, proven Premier League manager who revolutionized Brentford, bringing them up from the Championship and comfortably establishing the Bees as a competitive top-flight side. Gareth Southgate, long-serving England manager who has competed on the biggest stages in world football, very familiar with most of the Premier League talent and navigates through conflict and media buzz with ease. And lastly, Ruben Amorim, the least experienced of the four, who runs with a formation none of the United players had real experience with, in a philosophy wildly unfamiliar to anyone at Old Trafford, from the owners down to the academy prospects. Perfect. Okay, jokes aside, this appointment perfectly highlights one of the major issues regarding the modern view and expectations of a manager. First of all, it shows just how disconnected executives and owners are from the actual game itself. Choosing a manager such as Amorim, a guy who uses a 3-4-2-1 with a focus on dynamic fullbacks and a two-man pivot in the midfield, just goes to show that those in key decision-making roles really don't understand what their club actually needs to succeed. Removing Bruno Fernandes from an attacking 10 role and bringing him into a system with two flat central mids is borderline sabotage if you ask me. In addition to misusing your captain and most important player, they also didn't have the proper players to fill out the formation around him either. I don't know what's worse, 2025 Luke Shaw having to play as an end-to-end outside wingback or playing at center back. It was a matter of putting square pegs in round holes. They clearly didn't have the correct personnel to adapt to an entirely new system that didn't fit their profiles. It's as if the Glazers were just running out of ideas, and after countless failures with a wide range of proven managerial masterminds, they simply didn't know what to do anymore. So they say, fuck it, let's just try something flashy and new to see if it magically sticks. Hey, I hear wingbacks are in right now, right? And regardless of your opinion on how he did, you kinda have to feel at least a little bad for Amorim. I mean, look at how different my man looks after 12 months of coaching this cursed team. He was set up to fail. Managers these days are given all of the expectations without receiving any of the protection.
Fucking hell, man. I'm finished.
If a team is doing poorly, the blame is never put on individual players anymore. It always goes right back to the coaches. In a modern game plagued by over-analysis and a statistical superiority complex, the system is the scapegoat, and the underperforming players are given a free pass until the manager is kicked to the curb. And then another manager is hired and expected to magically turn things around with the same set of players the last guy had to work with, and the cycle continues. And Amorim was one of the many victims of this toxic cycle at the biggest clubs in football. You could see it get to him as he realized he was doomed to fail in this role, and how frustrating it must have been to work for a club that sees managers as magical solutions to these issues that they create as owners. They butcher the club from top to bottom, then use their media connections to spread the idea that it's yet again the manager's fault and no one else's. They create a distraction to cover their putrid scent of mismanagement and manipulation, and Amorim had had enough of it.
I just want to say that I'm going to be the manager of this team, not just the coach. And I was really clear on that. And that is going to finish in 18 months. And then we move on.
Hey guys, thank you.
Shortly after this public rant, Amorim was relieved of his duties as manager at Manchester United. And as always, the media sensationalized this outburst and spread Amorim slander until the focus was once again off the Glazers and Radcliffe. Do I think that Ruben Amorim did a great job at the club? No, not by any means. But I don't think there was ever a world where he would succeed at a club like United. Sir Alex's successors have included a man who's won 20 trophies outside of Manchester, a man who ran through the Eredivisie and took Ajax to the Champions League semis after embarrassing Real Madrid, and a treble winner who's literally called the special one, and they all crashed and burned in a similar fashion. Can the issue really be the manager at this point? Why are players given royal treatment and can keep their spots after years of underperforming, but a proven manager is seen as a ticking time bomb to set off after a season or two? They're seen as miracle workers for hire, a quick band-aid to throw over a club with crippling debt, evil ownership, and a locker room with an attitude problem. All I'm saying is, if Gyökeres were performing this way as a manager, he would have been out of Arsenal's club before he could even get off the plane. But instead, he's still getting minutes week in, week out, earning $200K a week despite looking like a Sunday League player. Back at United, Michael Carrick is back in as interim manager, and United have seen one of the craziest early manager bounces I've ever seen. I mean, they just shut out the best attack in England, wiping the floor with City in a 2-0 win. Then, the very next week, they score 3 past the best defense in the world, and pick up 6 points from 2 of their toughest matches all season. This goes to show that United's owners don't really know what's needed when it comes to a tactical leader at the club. Even if Carrick keeps getting results, there's a very good chance he's going to be replaced by the next shiny name to come in and overcomplicate things. Michael Carrick, who's very familiar with the club culture and players, knows how to set up a system based on the player they have in order to get the best out of them. But what's likely to happen come the end of the season is that some top name will be out of a job and will be offered a warm new seat at Old Trafford. Instead of a humble servant to uplift the club and unite the players, they'll hire a designer coach who will twist and contort the formation and tactics, suffocating United's talent to try and fit their rigid philosophy and feed their own ego. It'll be his way or the highway, and he'll bring in his own fleet of underperformers to serve as his £70 million henchmen, just as Ten Hag brought in Højlund and Malacia, and Amorim brought in Dorgu and Sesko. I think the Michael Carrick situation is actually a great opportunity for the fans to take the focus away from the manager. You can already see the United faithful calling for club reform from top to bottom, starting with changes in ownership and the presidency. Carrick has little to no expectation as a temporary caretaker, and it's a chance for the players to be held accountable, and even further, to shine. Another chapter in this saga is unfolding in Madrid, following the departure of Xabi Alonso after just a few months in charge at his former club. And although this is a similar problem to what's happening at United, the undertones here are much different. After an absolutely dominant reign, Don Carlo Ancelotti left Los Blancos as the most successful manager in the club's incredible history, winning 15 titles during his time there, including 3 Champions League titles. Similar to Sir Alex Ferguson, Ancelotti's departure from the club created a wave of uncertainty and angst around the Bernabeu, but fortunately for them, there was a dream candidate making a real name for himself, taking European football by storm, just as he did as a player. Xabi Alonso was proving himself as the top up-and-coming manager, taking a run-of-the-mill 5th or 6th place Leverkusen and transforming them into the most dominant team in Bundesliga history, destroying Bayern's record of 32 games unbeaten, winning a domestic double, and completing the first ever unbeaten season in the Bundesliga with a team that had never even won it before is no stroke of luck. Alonso was clearly the real deal. He revolutionized Leverkusen with a devastating attacking play style, utilizing the width of the pitch and abusing both flanks with outside backs Grimaldo and Frimpong. He was making regular players look like Galacticos, breezing past teams with ease while averaging almost 3 goals per game. His quick, free-flowing attacking football combined with his La Liga experience made him an ideal candidate to fill Ancelotti's shoes. So, what the hell could have gone so wrong? This is the complete opposite problem Amorim had at Man United. Alonso seemed like the perfect manager at Real Madrid from a tactical perspective, but there was one key component Xabi was lacking, one that got completely overlooked by the board and inevitably led to his demise as Madrid manager. That's right, you can have a flawless game plan, optimizing XG, limiting opponents' touches in the box, dominating possession on the ball, and the list goes on, but you can still fall short at the end of the match. None of this matters if you don't have the forgotten art of man management in football. This was made clear with Alonso's first few weeks at Madrid, and it only got worse as his short stint went on. In his final moments in charge, you can see this summed up perfectly after a close loss against Barca in the Supercopa final. On paper, this was no embarrassing defeat. It'll sting, losing to your biggest rivals in a cup final, for sure, but it's not as if Barca ran over them. It was a 3-2 game that could have swung either way on any given day. But it's what happens after the match that demonstrated that Alonso was already on his way out in everyone's eyes. Look as Barca get ready to lift the trophy, and Alonso ushers over Mbappe and a few other players to give their rivals a guard of honor. Mbappe and Bellingham completely ignore him at first, then Mbappe basically tells him to F off. If you were to do this to a manager like Conte or Diego Simeone, there would be a missing persons report the next day. So, where Alonso excelled in his understanding of the complexities of the game in real time, he lacked in his role as an authority figure, a unifier, a man-ager.
In English, manage, if you split the two words, it's man, age. You're aging men.
Being the manager at Madrid isn't like being in the trenches of a scrappy mid-table side. Every single one of your players is an international superstar, a national hero, an A-list celebrity. This locker room is not going to look like Bournemouth's, Werder Bremen's, or Espanyol's. This level of power and status at such a young age requires meticulous oversight from a manager. You can't let egos grow out of control, you have to prevent player relationships from crumbling, and most importantly, you have to build trust. Not just in your tactics as a coach, but as a firm leader to carry the club in the right direction. Despite keeping pace with league leaders Barcelona, it was clear that the chasm between the players and the new coach had grown too large to mend. And if you're skeptical of what I'm saying, and you think that this had anything to do with tactics, let's take a look at how Ancelotti ran things at the club. It boils down to this: Ancelotti was not a tactical magician. He didn't speak of XG optimization, or line-breaking passes, or switching to a low block out of possession. None of this woke Arteta ball we're seeing today. Instead, Ancelotti's plan was simple. You are a Madrid player, and you're gonna act like one. You want freedom? You think you're all that? Okay, go prove that to me and everyone else in this stadium. I won't tell you how many yards to be from the touchline, or what type of first touch to be taking in the midfield, and in return, you're going to be individually brilliant out there. And he took this philosophy to extremes. Complete freedom of movement, explosive counterattacks, and most importantly, players balling out and clip farming every season. He encouraged individuality, whereas Alonso tried to suppress it in order to work a calculated system. And I'm not saying one way is right and the other is wrong, but I think that this perfectly highlights the issue with managers these days. You're expected to have mastered one formation, one game plan, and apply that to whatever club you end up at. Ancelotti and many of the old school managers succeed not just because of their understanding of the game, but because of their adaptability. If a system isn't working, Ancelotti will just change it. Amorim, on the other hand, just rocked up to every game with the same exact tactics. And as Einstein once said, to try the same thing over and over and expect different results is the definition of insanity. This is why I think Carrick's half-season in charge could be eye-opening for many people. His expectation is to be a temporary caretaker, to try and keep results flowing, players healthy, and the locker room positive. The fact that he isn't trying some new fad tactics involving inverted false wingbacks or a defensive line so high they're almost off the pitch means that the players have the opportunity to put the game in their own hands. When they aren't focused so hard on remembering the new book of set plays or the order in which they're supposed to pass the ball in every counterattack, it means they have a chance to show their natural ability on the ball and actually work on their chemistry with their teammates. Since Amorim's departure, Bruno has reminded us why he's the best 10 in the league, creating countless chances now that he has fewer defensive responsibilities. Mbeumo has been deadly on the counter and has really been able to sneak his way into a possible team of the season discussion. Cunha has been looking like an absolute baller and the definition of a complete attacker, popping up in really important moments with goal contributions. And Ugarte? No, I'm just kidding, he's still so bad.